charge of this noble organization, dear God. Help us to continue on in strength, Lord God. Help us to prevail for bread, peace, and justice for the poor and the downtrodden this morning, dear God. Master and friend, that everything we do be honorable in your sight. This morning we ask in your most holy name we pray. Amen. Amen.
Miss.
You, the members of the media, and a special welcome to all our friends and comrades and supporters, hundreds of thousands of them, who would have been supporting and backing us in this process of the acquisition of the Petrotrin Refinery and the port, not just for the OWTO, but in the interest of the people of Trinidad and Tobago. We thought it necessary, absolutely necessary, to respond to the statement made by the Honorable Minister of Energy yesterday in his press conference, where he outlined 3 main areas. And we thought that since this is an issue, notwithstanding us being encumbered by non-disclosure agreements and so on, we owe it to the general public, we owe it to our supporters, hundreds of thousands of them, as I just mentioned, who supported us and continue to support us with all of the goodwill, all of the hope in the country, acquiring these assets for the people of Trinidad and Tobago. What does that mean? That Patriotic, in its bid to acquire these assets, it is for the benefit of all of the people of Trinidad and Tobago to ensure that these assets remain in local hands. The road towards this acquisition was a complex one. It still remains complex, but it is a task that the company, Patriotic, was totally up to and very capable, because we were supported by our international business team and international business partners throughout the process. And therefore, I want to, this morning, give a chronology of events for the benefit of the understanding of the public, go through some of the main steps, main events, main dates, as we see it, that are relevant to where we are right now. And so that those timelines, factual timelines, we believe, can stand the scrutiny of research or any thorough investigation. And I'll walk you through them, starting from where the union would have incorporated a company, Patriotic Energies and Technologies Company Limited, to acquire these assets. And in doing so, we would have submitted a bid. But let me take you back to yesterday's 3 points that was raised, and then we will come back to the chronology of events. The minister said, among other things in his brief statement, and I quote, "However, after prolonged negotiations, the key issues at the end turned out to be 1, purchase price financing, 2, the restart financing, and 3, the issue of first priority lien." Now, for the benefit of the public, and for those who may not have been following this issue, or those who today are not with the complete understanding of what the third point is, the issue of priority lien, I just want to give a little explanation on that. Lien is simply the whole the financiers or the financial institution will have on the asset. Let me say that again. Lien is simply the whole that the financial institution will have on the asset. It is likened to you would have taken out a mortgage on your property, on your house, and it is the whole that the banks would have on that property, on your assets. So that those assets are held by the financial institution. That is the simple explanation. And we need to simplify, notwithstanding the complexity of the issue. We need to simplify to the extent that we are allowed to with the NDA this issue, so that all of our supporters, all of the many hundreds of thousands of them we confirm that continue to support us, that they understand what the real issues. And let me just say that though it was listed as number 3, and perhaps less prominence was paid on that particular issue, the issue of first priority lien, that is the main issue here in this whole acquisition process stumbling block. The number 3 issue is the main issue, and you would see throughout this chronology of events that I'm going to take you through, you would see where we would have satisfied number 1, number 2, and of course, indeed, number 3. But let us go. In August of 2019, Patriotic submitted a bid to acquire the Petrotrin Refinery with an US $700 million upfront payment. We went into that bid pledging to acquire those assets by paying upfront. However, the government, in its wisdom, on September the 20th, 2019, last year, the Minister of Finance, the Honorable Carl Imber, announced in the Parliament that Patriotic was the preferred bidder and was given an offer of deferred payment, which included a 3-year moratorium, 10 years to pay the purchase price at a fair market value interest rate, and 10 conditions to be answered within 1 month. Patriotic accepted the Cabinet's offer announced by the Minister of Finance in the Parliament. That's the first thing that we want to note here this morning. So no longer we were on the road to upfront payment, but that an offer was made and we accepted it and we proceeded along the lines to satisfy the conditions that was outlined.
So, Deputy Speaker, after reviewing all the facts as presented, Cabinet today agreed to select Patriotic Energies and Technologies Co, a company wholly owned by the Oilfield Workers Trade Union, as the preferred bidder for the sale of the Guaracara Refining Company and Paria Fuel Trading Company on the following terms and conditions. A, that Patriotic be given 1 month to present to the Evaluation Committee a satisfactory and comprehensive work plan on how it intends to complete the process going forward with respect to the following key deliverables. 1, confirmation of its ability to finance the purchase and operation of the refinery. 2, a draft sales and purchase agreement and various other commercial agreements, including of food handling, domestic fuel supply, natural gas supply, product offtake and transition support. 3, a finalized business plan that addresses other key deliverables, inclusive of the provision of a guaranteed, reliable and seamless supply of refined petroleum products to Trinidad and Tobago and the Caribbean region, ensuring the long-term viability of the refinery and reducing its carbon footprint. 4, a statement of any fiscal incentives or tax concessions required from the government of Trinidad and Tobago. 5, an approach to any historical environmental liabilities. 6, a refinery startup plan which involves any necessary additional work inclusive of the refinery refurbishment plan and the terminal startup plan. 7. A plan for the supply of petroleum products during the transition to full operationalization by Patriotic of the refinery, inclusive of the finalization of an MOU with Trafigura Pte. Limited. 8. A suitable staffing plan, inclusive of senior management. 9. Proof of qualification to engender the startup and performance enhancement process for the new business, as well as the evaluation of growth opportunities, deliver solutions that integrate information, analytics, and insight to solve client challenges at all points along the energy value chain. And finally, approval from the Board of Directors of Patriotic for the definitive terms and conditions of the proposed transaction. Cabinet also agreed, Mr. Deputy Speaker, that Patriotic be granted a 3-year moratorium on all payments of principal and interest towards the purchase of the refinery, and a further 10 years at a fair market interest rate to complete the payment of the sum of US $700 million it has offered for the refinery.
Okay. And I want to continue by pointing to the date, the 4th of October 2019. The Cabinet appointed evaluation committee that the Minister referred to there, Patriotic, met with that Cabinet appointed evaluation committee to discuss the terms and requirement for the 10-point conditions. On the 4th of November, Patriotic met the 1-month deadline and submitted its response to the 10 conditions. On the 14th of November 2019, the Minister of Finance publicly announced that Patriotic met all the 10 conditions, of which restart financing was number 1, and therefore it is clear that that dealt with Minister Khan's issue of restart financing. And I want to say at this point that we recommitted and restated in writing in our proposal that we delivered on the 29th on the issue of restart financing. And therefore, in our respectful view, that would have dealt with the number 2 point, the restart financing. But let's just go to the Minister's confirmation last year.
The sky is only the limit because the OWTU formed a company called Patriotic. They put in a bid for the refinery, and we selected them as the preferred bidder because they were by far the best bidder. And I don't want to talk out of turn. We gave Petrotrin a month to deal with some issues that the evaluation team is mainly public servants and experts, had some issues with how Patriotic was looking at how they will take over the refinery. So they asked them 10 questions. And I can report tonight. Patriotic has answered those 10 questions. And the Cabinet will be making a decision on that in the very near future. If everything works according to plan, we're going to move the OWTU from a trade union to a commercial business company earning money for its members. Only PNM could do that. You think UNC could do that? You think UNC could build a new society like that? Taking a trade union from being workers to being owners of capital and generators of income? Only PNM could. Only.
I just wanted to the relevant part of that clip. So it's the same Minister of Finance confirming publicly that we would have satisfied the 10-point requirement. And let me just say that one of those 10 points, in fact, the number 1, had to do with restart financing. So we were taken aback to see or to hear the Minister brought that back as an issue yesterday. Let's move on. So on the 14th of July, not until the 14th of July this year, 2020, a team by comprising members of TPHL representing Trinidad Petroleum Holding Limited, met with us to conclude the negotiations to finalize an asset purchase agreement, an APA. And again, for the benefit of the public, let me just explain what that is. You can say publicly, or you can make pronouncements on your agreement to sell something, but not until you finally condense that into an agreement. The bankers, your financiers, will then take you seriously. In other words, you could go down to the bank, tell the bank that Ivan wants to sell you his house, but Ivan has to have a written agreement with you that you can take to the bank that will allow the bank to purchase the house for you from Ivan. And so we met on July 14th this year to hammer out such agreement. But something happened. And the something that happened, it happened on the 17th of July 2020. And that is when Patriotic was first alerted that TPHL had major difficulties getting over some internal financing issues related to the offer made by the Minister of Finance on September 20th last year. Now keep in mind, the offer that was made and the offer that was accepted and the offer that we were working towards bringing a conclusion to the acquisition of these assets. And so at that meeting of the 17th of July, Patriotic was first alerted. On the 20th of August 2020, the TPHL international attorneys confirmed that there were indeed major challenges with their internal financing, which may be insurmountable based on the offer made by the Minister of Finance in September of last year. It's another fact. On the 11th of September, it was only then that TPHL provided Patriotic with documentations now relating to the existing liens. Now you might hear about something, but not until the back and forth with the attorneys and the request was made for this, not until at that point we were presented with documentation on the existing liens. And we are guided and bound by non-disclosure agreements, and therefore at this point we will not be able to share or divulge those documents. On the 28th of September, at the spotlight on the budget, remember that event? The PM at Spotlight on Budget gave a deadline for parties to come to an agreement, and that deadline was the end of October. On the 5th of October, during the budget presentation in the Parliament, the Minister of Finance confirmed the deadline of the end of October for parties to agree. On the 7th of October, having regard to the confirmation in the Parliament in the delivery of the budget in his presentation by the Minister of Finance, having regard to that, Patriotic lawyers immediately wrote TPHL's lawyers requesting an urgent meeting, through them, requesting an urgent meeting with the ministerial committee, because Patriotic was never formally advised of that deadline. It's said in public and reaffirmed by the Honorable Minister of Finance in his presentation of the budget, but we were never formally advised of that deadline. So our lawyers would have written to the TPHL lawyers and requesting through them a meeting with the ministerial committee to discuss the issue of the challenges and, of course, given the deadline. On the 21st of October, Despite the request since the 7th of October, it was not until last week, the 21st, that the ministerial team met with Patriotic representatives, Patriotic team, to work with them, for us to work with them with respect to those challenges and this major stumbling block. Patriotic team gave suggestions as to how they can overcome these challenges, this major challenge, but was informed that they would have difficulties with those suggestions. We gave 2 suggestions. And again, at this time, we will not divulge what those suggestions were, except to say that they had major difficulties with those suggestions, and therefore, as a result of that, based on the government's challenge with the internal financing arrangement, which affected the September 20, that's last year, offer by the Minister of Finance. Keep in mind the offer and those challenges, that particular challenge affected it. Based on that, we committed to go away and come back with a proposal to break the deadlock and to move the process forward. And therefore, Patriotic subsequently would have gone away very diligently and discussed the issues with our international partners, our international business partners, our international team. And after just 6 working days, we would have come back with an upfront cash proposal supported by a letter from one of the top 10 world investment banks, signed off by 3 of their global heads. Now, keep in mind, this is a very complex process. The Minister of Energy repeatedly on diverse occasions talked about the complexity of the process. And the government is aware any major investor, any major international banker, any major financer would, any major economist would understand that to be able to secure committed financing, it's a process. To be able, if you're going to get a mortgage to buy Ivan House, and you go to the bank this morning, this evening or next week, or even next month, the bank wouldn't approve and give you finance. But if you have a good proposal and your ability to repay, the bank will commit to support you based on Ivan now giving you in writing his commitment to sell you that, to sell you his house. And therefore, we will have gone away, and that is why we were with a nail-biting finish, because we were in discussions with our international partners and engaging this major investment bank, ranked one of the top 10 in the world, engaging them, which they found soundness with our proposal, and they agreed to support us in raising this upfront cash payment for the acquisition. So here we are, back on the road to upfront payment. Recall with clarity that that is where we were last year. But having accepted the offer made by the Cabinet through the Minister of Finance in his wisdom, having accepted that offer, we would have departed from the other approach of upfront cash payment. And so, with no idea coming from the ministers to be able to surmount that challenge, we went away and we came back with a proposal submitted on the 29th around, was it 10:07 p.m. And let me just say a little bit more. of that. The proposal included a draft heads of agreement, which Patriotic never had any response to thus far. That offer addressed the challenge with their internal financing and the prioritization of lean issues and placed before them a path forward. In other words, we did not fold our arms or throw our hands in the air in despair. What in fact we did, because of the soundness of the work that we would have done for more than a year since this acquisition process had begun, on the basis of the soundness of that, we went back to access the financing that would take care of the issue of prioritization of the lean. So that number 3 issue that was raised by the minister and the number 1 issue of purchase price financing, that was dealt with in our respectful view in the proposal that was submitted on the 29th of October last week. And I want to say that we would have, notwithstanding the challenges that were placed before the government and our approach to assist in surmounting the challenge. Now remember, it's not that we say that it's your challenge and you fix that. We did not say that. We say we will assist in surmounting those challenges, because here's what. This is not just for OWTU. This is not just for Patriotic. This is for Trinidad and Tobago. Therefore, ours is a firm commitment, reaffirmed on many occasions, to do all that is humanly possible and necessary to ensure that those assets remain in the hands of local Trinbagonians, local Trinidadians, local Trinidadians and Tobagonians who today are without hope, but that hope was restored in the hearts of hundreds of thousands of citizens of Trinidad and Tobago when the Oilfields Workers Trade Union's company Patriotic would have won that bid and would have moved on to the acquiring of those assets for the benefit of all of the people, for the benefit of the sick and the infirm, for the benefit of the man in the street, for the benefit of the worker, the retrenched worker and workers at work, workers who are to be retrenched tomorrow or next week, for the benefit of all strata of society in Trinidad and Tobago, because that process, given an opportunity to continue to see the light of day and complete, would benefit with no shadow of a doubt, would benefit all of our citizens. And that is the depth, that is the seriousness of conviction that the OWTU would have placed behind our proposal to ensure that we would have reached this far. And we verily believe that the proposal that we would have placed before the ministerial team on the last Thursday, 10 p.m., at exactly 10:07 p.m., we verily believe that that proposal would address the issue of purchase financing, the restart financing, and the issue of priority lean. Bearing in mind that the Minister of Finance, and you saw it just a while ago, would have confirmed that we would have addressed that. But that we would have restated in that proposal our renewed commitment to deal with that issue. It is our respectful view, Trinidad and Tobago, that given the deadline set by the government, by the Prime Minister, reaffirmed by the Minister of Finance in his budget presentation, that having regard to the proposal that we would have submitted Thursday night, that it is our respectful view that they would not have afforded themselves enough time to go through in a comprehensive way all of those the issues, all of the tenets of that proposal, and therefore would not have been afforded a proper response by the deadline yesterday. But more than that, the evaluation committee appointed by cabinet, which would have gone through past the patriotic proposal, through all of the rigors, and would have given the all clear and the recommendation to cabinet to accept that proposal last year. We believe that it is time, opportune time, that we can call back in that evaluation committee to evaluate the latest proposal that we would have placed before the ministerial committee. So that it would be an objective approach to looking in a thorough way at all of the response, all of the areas raised by the minister, and yes, those issues deserve a response, and that is why we believe that it's not just us responding, but that we should place before that evaluation committee, that independent evaluation committee, scrutiny our latest proposal. And may I say at this point that in nowhere in that proposal, whether inferred or confirmed or otherwise, did we ever mention the issue that it is our final proposal. It's not our final proposal. And therefore what is, in our respectful view, required is for a meeting of the minds, is for the ministerial team to meet with us, and for us to engage in the area that the minister would have raised, and therefore give us the opportunity to do just as I am attempting to do this morning, but of course with more clarity, given the fact that we are bounded by NDAs here, but to give the fullest of the explanation and so on, and to point to all of the support, and to point to all of where these areas have been properly covered. We requested such a meeting in our proposal, when we delivered our proposal a couple of nights ago. It was on Thursday night. In our letter of proposal, which accompanied the draft heads of agreement, all of those things to be able to sign off on a way forward to treat with the Honorable Prime Minister's deadline and to treat with the Honorable Minister of Finance deadline. We took it, we was taken by surprise, but we took it very seriously and we responded to it. Again, we recognize the challenge that was placed before the government. We did not say that's your problem, deal with it. Absolutely not. We did not take that approach, an approach that we will never take. What we did, however, I'm reiterating, we would have committed to come back with a proposal which we did to deal with that seemingly insurmountable challenge. And therefore we are humbly requesting that at this point, that the best way forward is for this issue, our latest proposal, to go before this independent cabinet appointed committee so that they can scrutinize thoroughly all of the areas and determine if we had come up short or if indeed we had meet all of the requirements, which this morning we are saying with confidence that we would have met all of the requirements. This issue, this acquisition process, has been a long and winding one. It is one that is very complex, but it is also a task that we were very much up to, a task that we overcame. And every area of concern thus far would have been addressed. And you would recall me on many occasions saying to you, the public of Trinidad and Tobago, that we would have met all of the requirements. You would have seen just a while ago. And for posterity, we would have brought back that, because we don't want people to forget what was said, what was agreed to. We would have brought back that, and the minister confirmed that we would have met all of these requirements. So, we were taken, like you, we were taken by surprise yesterday, but we are still not throwing our hands in the air. We are confident that the body of work that was done can stand the scrutiny and it can see us through. But we have some concerns, Trinidad and Tobago. We are very concerned because in that body of work, which cost us tens of millions of dollars, cost the union tens of millions of dollars, because an acquisition process by its very nature is a costly venture, very, very costly. To have engaged foreign partners and so on, foreign business associates, foreign lawyers, both in London and the United States of America, our entire international team. Two things: it is expensive, and it is also because of the nature of the work that we would have done and what they saw as opportunities for Patriotic that would have kept them at the table despite COVID and in spite of the difficulty, the economic difficulty throughout the world. But indeed, in Trinidad and Tobago, compounded even more with COVID. In spite of all of that, they are seeing our international business partners and experts and so on, because of the uniqueness of a number of issues, and I cannot divulge those issues, those are trade secrets. Because of the uniqueness of our proposal, they are still seeing opportunities for Patriotic, which will be down to the benefit of Trinidad and Tobago. And that is why they are still at the table with us. And so no one has left the table. And therefore, today, this morning, this is why we are making this call. But here's the concern. We are concerned that during the rigorous and prolonged process thus far, Patriotic had to pay tens of millions of dollars to produce, among other things, the following: comprehensive business plan, which will talk about how we will get the business going; detailed market study, which has information about new markets that Petrotrin never, ever explored. Our very detailed market study would have gone into those areas and determined that and identified particular markets. That is captured in the report. A detailed feasibility study. All Patriotic's technical team know-how and so on, all of that had been submitted to them. These documents are in the hands of the TPHL team and the board. I just want to express concern this morning that these documents are with them. And so we are a bit concerned where these documents can end up and who can be favored with those documents. Because we were not satisfied to continue in the way in which Petrotrin was operated. We had turned a page, because you would recall that on numerous occasions, the union was the one that says that the management of Petrotrin was not being managed properly. And having the opportunity to first-hand deal with the management of those assets, we would have gone out and we would have done it differently. And those things are captured in those reports, those detailed and comprehensive reports that I have just a moment ago described. Trinidad and Tobago will benefit from the restart of the Petrotrin Refinery and its operation. But Trinidad and Tobago will benefit 10 times, many times more from the restart of that refinery, with it remaining in local hands. By all of the requirements. But even more than that, went on to say that, in my words now, that we were transforming OW2. It was not just transforming OW2. It was a major intention to transform Trinidad and Tobago into a different type of Trinidad and Tobago, where the ordinary man will have a say, not just be a stakeholder, but be a shareholder, to be able to benefit directly from the assets of Trinidad and Tobago. We thought that that's a noble move on the part of the government. And therefore we call on the government this morning to continue along that path and in the way forward to set up this independent evaluation committee so that our proposal can be properly well scrutinized and go through the rigors to determine that we would have met all of the requirement. And because we would have met all of the requirement, to continue the process so that in the soonest possible time that those assets will be restarted and that Trinidad and Tobago will once again be on the path to recovery for the benefits of all of its citizens. Thank you very much. Any questions? Of course, we are guided by the issue of the yes.
President General, Nicholas Touchman from TV6.
Yes.
Good day, everyone. Do you believe that after all these conditions were met by Patriotic Energies over the past year or so, there was a genuine reason to refuse the proposal on the last day?
Well, first of all, we were caught by surprise. Indeed, what we thought would have been an announcement to say that we would have met the requirement was the opposite. So we were taken by surprise. And therefore, when we look at the three issues raised, we respectfully disagree that we did not meet those requirements. As to prefer a reason why, we are still trying to analyze that. This morning I can't say exactly why. All I can say so far is that perhaps there was not enough time given the deadline, and they would have received that last week Thursday. Now mind you, the reason why they would have received it Thursday is because when we met the last one, on the 21st, that's just about a week before, we were then committing to go back and come back. So it's not that we could have come back the following day or the following day, that we would have gone back and did a comprehensive study, talk with our international team and so on, and engage this, one of the top 10 investment banks by letter supporting us to take this different approach and so on. And therefore, it was a very complex document that we would have submitted to them, and we verily believe that they would not have gone through that properly. This is why we are saying that give us an opportunity. This is why in the submission of that, we would have requested to meet with them to go through it. We did not get that opportunity.
With that being said, do you think the government is being honest in their search for a local investor, purchaser, or is there the possibility that government has their eyes on a new foreign investor? Hence the reason why they're refusing such a good proposal.
Well, we are so busy and our heads are buried in what we do and what we want for the country. Our attention is not drawn as to what they are doing, except to say we feel that what they should do is to really engage us in one-on-one now to understand the veracity, the extent of our proposal, and of course put it before the cabinet appointed independent evaluation team and so on, so that we can have a way forward.
You've been mentioning your international partner, but just for the public's information, who is this international partner?
Oh, well, at the appropriate time, and suffice it to say, because we are still bounded by NDA, and the minister was careful, and this morning we want to also be careful not to breach the NDA and so on, but at the appropriate time, Trinidad and Tobago. And we hope that when that time comes, it will be at the time when we would have signed off on this acquisition process and so on, and begun the restarting, and we will then put names and faces before the public, and I guarantee you that you would see and you would then know the nature, the support, the type of support that we have, which is why we would have won the bid. Serious people took serious proposals seriously and gave us serious support, which is why we
I don't have probably questions, but how many other bidders were you all competing against?
Oh, well, to start with, if you go back, and we invite the media to go back and do the research, because in the the Honorable Minister of Finance presentation last year in the Parliament, that's September, when he made that announcement, he would have gone through in a comprehensive way all the numbers, and it was 77. 77. The OWTU's company, Patriotic, Trinidad and Tobago, would have competed with 76 other bidders. And not just 76 other bidders from Trinidad and Tobago or right here. International bidders for the asset. And we would have come out winning the bid with flying colors, because our proposal was far better than the rest of them. Those were here, and we were quite here. And therefore, on the basis of that, and on the basis of being the only local, the government made the point. That's a valid point. The only local, nobody else in Trinidad and Tobago would have put forward a proposal. But the Oilfields Workers Trade Union Company, Patriotic Energies Technologies Co. Yeah? And we would have won out. And I think that that is why the public would have supported us. We had enormous goodwill support coming from the public. So what the announcement did last night is not just taking us by surprise, but it took the majority of Trinidadians and Trinbagonians, our citizens, by surprise. And therefore, in the interest of all of the citizens, all of the goodwill, all of the hope, all of the opportunities that are still before us, let us not allow those opportunities to slip away. But let us grab them with both hands now, get back to the table, and put this. And that is where we are this morning. Yeah?
Sasha Wilson from Guardian Media. Do you think the government would be willing to or would be interested in doing the evaluation, putting the team in place to evaluate your proposal?
Well, I think so. It is both our hope and expectation, because what the minister prefaced and the context in which he put our proposal is a final proposal. That is not so. It is in no way, shape, and form. It must be construed as a final proposal. We went to that meeting with honest and forthright intention to assist the government in overcoming this challenge of lean, putting forward two suggestions which did not see the light of day, but also committing to go away and confer with our international partners and come back with a proposal on a way forward. And that is what we did. And in that proposal, may I remind you here again, I said it before, that we requested an opportunity to meet with them. So it is not a final proposal that we put and they reject, and that's the end of it. And therefore, on the basis of that, if they misconstrued it that it is a final proposal, I want to, with the abundance of clarity this morning, say that it is not. And therefore, we request the continuation of the engagement. And we are not pointing to any open-ended situation. Absolutely not. Because on diverse occasions, when this process would have stalled for whatever reason, it was the Patriotic team and, of course, its shareholders, OWTU, calling for the restart of the discussions and so on. There were many long, which was not occasioned by us. But we would have called for the continuation. Never on any occasion did we indicate or info that we want to walk away, simply because we saw opportunities which, as time rolls on, as COVID wreaked havoc throughout the world and indeed on our own economy, we saw opportunities that we should take advantage of to mitigate the circumstances we find ourselves in as a result of our economy on the one hand and how it's impacted by COVID. I tell you, Trinidad and Tobago is going to benefit. May I just say to all of those who would have supported, we had support from persons who don't usually support OWTO, but support the initiative of OWTO because they knew very well that the country is going to benefit. In the restart process, the country is going to benefit, and that is going to take place long before we restart. When we restart, the country is going to benefit. It goes without saying. In the process to bring these assets, operational and so on, to repair and to do all of the turnarounds and so on, that too is costly. That's the restart process. And that is where we would have had committed, we would have had identified where we are going to get this committed finance to deal with that. But we need to move the process forward. And that finance is going to see, that process of restarting, repairs and so on, is going to see many, many people gainfully employed for that period and so on.
Are you concerned by the minister's statement that they will be exploring their options and they may even look at the second and third bidder if the offers are still on the table?
Yes, well, we are concerned, but at the same time, our request this morning is for the government, in the interest of the country, Trinidad and Tobago, to stay their hands, but at the same time, give an opportunity for this proposal, this latest proposal, which is in line with the minister's offer, which seeks to get over the hurdle of the stumbling block that they have, allow for that to be properly evaluated. And you will find that at the end of the day, you will find that it would have overcome that particular challenge and so on, because we are now on the way, on the road to buy the assets outright. Yeah? And so, because that approach is one that we would have submitted last Thursday, but at one that we would have engaged in just 1 week ago, supported by this International Investment Bank, just 1 week, we feel that there's not enough time was given really to deal with that issue. Yeah? Mind you, so we didn't set it aside, we go back to this approach of outright purchase. Yeah? And that is where we are this morning. And I want to thank all of the people of Trinidad and Tobago, all of our supporters, and they came from the different strata of society. It came from the business community, from the working class, from the unemployed, of course. They saw the benefits that the country would gain as a result of that. And you mentioned the issue of the second and third and so on. They are not local, they are foreign. Yeah? And I think that because charity begins at home, and because we would have done the work, and all of this work must not be allowed to go in vain, we should be given an opportunity, a fair opportunity at this point, to see this effort through to the end. I want to end again by saying it will not be open-ended, but at the same time, it requires time and due diligence and so on, scrutiny by an objective, independent evaluation committee, that which was appointed by the cabinet on last year. Thank you very much for coming to cover this very important statement of a response to the minister's press conference yesterday. We wish at this point we could have said more, given more details, but because we pledge to honor in the strictest term the NDA. We will not divulge any part of it. And of course, because we pledge to see this thing through to the end, we are still at the table awaiting the corresponding approach and hand of the minister's team for us to cooperate on the way forward. Thank you very much.